Forest witchcraft is more than just modern witchcraft inlaid with forest ingredients. There is a spirit to this type of living magic, and my hope is today I can share some of the ways to connect to that spirit so you can begin your practice or add some new elements to your practice. If you're interested in forest witchcraft, you may wish to like and subscribe here. My name is Heather Lynn, and welcome to the Wild Witchery. Today I'm going to share with you some foundational thoughts on forest witchcraft as we experience a renewal forest spell in the forest, a little bit on how to set up a forest witch apothecary. I will teach you how to make a forest witch anointing salve for forest witch Gleening. We're going to talk about Whimsey and that spirit that I mentioned already as we make 2 forest witchery shadow boxes. We'll also work with owl pellets and tiny bones. I want to also end our time with a little wild Magick flower tea and send you off with a blessing for your own adventures. Today's video is a collaboration with Casey from her channel The Faerie Wood Witch, and we shall talk more on that later in the video. Casey is so special, and I just can't wait to share her work with you, all wild ones. Her info is linked below, of course. Let's start with the first step, how to truly begin to become a forest witch, and that would be adopting a collector's mindset. No matter where you go in nature, you're discovering and in turn collecting. Like our ancestors before us, the natural world was just waiting to be discovered. And just because there are books compiled already for us with this knowledge, that doesn't mean we shouldn't be the first-time explorers ourselves. In fact, doing so brings us closer to magic. This energy of excitement during discovery activates the will to unite with magic. Just pulling ideas from our ancestors won't get us close enough to the connections we seek in the forest. While books of old offer us a wealth of knowledge, let us not forget our own curiosity, our own knowledge, which is found in our own adventures, and let us be free to value our own discoveries. Many witches not aware of forest witchcraft already have the collector's mindset, and while it doesn't mean you're an undiscovered forest witch, it can be a sign that you are a forest witch. That innate childlike curiosity developed makes for a fine first step in becoming a forest witch. The collecting of magical items is actually called gleaning. The word gleaning was used in the Bible, a well-established agricultural practice. Gleaning was the act of collecting leftover crops from farmers' fields after commercial harvest. It was practiced, and farmers saved the corners of the crop as an act of service for those in need. Gleaning then entered the occult through folk herbalism and traveled through wild crafters and lands here, a term coined for the forest witch. Gleaning is a way to say we are collecting some but not all. It is a term that speaks to ecological harvesting with nature's balance kept in mind. I love this term as it reminds me every day when I am harvesting to harvest sustainably, know what is endangered and only take a little. This equates to less than 10 to 15% of what I see in bloom. So you see 10 daisies, only take 1. I love this term instead of collecting because it reminds me the magical rules I wish to follow as a wild foraging witch. So now that you're collecting and adventuring to glean items, what do you do with all these amazing energies? Because as a folk witch, you're not just a wild crafter, you're a seeker of energies as well for spell work. That really is what defines a forest witch. So if you're like me, you will have 3 apothecaries, 1 for herbalism, 1 for crafting, and 1 for spell work. And that 1 for herbalism could just be for kitchen witchery, like spices and blends. I promise you, it will be much easier if you separate them all. As we build this apothecary, you will also see me pulling small bones from owl pellets. I find this is a safe way to get small bones to work with in spell work. I buy a kit and it comes with a guide so you can figure out which bones are to what animals to build correspondences. There is a place for everything and everything in its place. A good start is to build a small bottle collection and label your finds. In the beginning, you might not feel as comfortable naming these energies, or what we call correspondences, which are also found in the books I mentioned before from our ancestors. But in true forest witch spirit, you can tap into your own intuition to sense what this spirit could be used for, or energy. If you're unfamiliar with animism, you can look that up for more details. But the basic concept is every plant, rock, crystal, every part of the forest has a living spirit. Even the Fae are a spirit to work with, whether you believe they're little people or just energy. As witches, we work with the energies or the spirits in nature. I use what I know about a plant to come up with a correspondence, and witchy plant books are a great resource to check on your intuitive feelings and guesses. Although it is not necessary. I tend to mix my own knowledge with others' knowledge, and that works for me. You can also use only others' knowledge if that is what you feel is necessary, and there is nothing wrong with that either. My whole be free thing, trust in your knowledge thing, this can take time to develop, so just be gentle with yourself. And for some of this, it's not going to work for you at all. It just might not be your way, and that's okay too. Don't take my be free to a dogmatic place. You can certainly use the tools you have and meet your practice where it needs to be, and it will change over time, and that's really truly what freedom is. Before we wildcraft, I wanted to talk a little bit about Casey, the Fairy Wood Witch, which, as you can tell, I'm really excited about. Casey's channel is relatively new at the time of this video coming out, but when I saw her videos, I could see that same spirit I am always talking about in the forest come to life. If you love forest witch magic, I think you will love her videos, and I encourage you to head over, like, and subscribe to her channel. Her video is full of whimsy. Casey is an artist, musician, and a fellow Aquarius, so you know there will be elements of a free spirit and a kind, soulful being. I was privileged to get to know Casey this month. I joke that if we lived near each other, we would float away to fairyland. She has a genuine nature, and as a new videographer, her talent is already present. Her videos to come this year will be special indeed, and you won't want to miss them. Her video, which also talks a little bit about the Fae, is linked above and below for you. So now that we have a little apothecary going, let's prepare an anointing salve for our upcoming adventure. The main ingredient in the salve, juniper, spruce, cedar, and pine. So let's go and gather some for the salve or balm. Here I am on a forest witch harvesting adventure, gathering the ingredients. The recipe for this salve is in the description for you.
Hello everyone. We have the glorious juniper, obsessed. I love making oils, and today we are going to make a wild woodland oil. It is the oil that I make every winter, and it typically contains juniper. I have made it before with just white pine. White pine doesn't have quite the scent that I'm looking for. Juniper really is the queen of that woodland scent. You can also use spruce, and juniper is always my go-to for this particular blend. Magically, juniper is protective. I would say that juniper, for me, I think every witch has a different experience with. There is definitely a personal gnosis aspect of like, there's like what our ancestors feel from these plants, and we call that our correspondences. And I definitely think going to that is a great resource, but I think we also have our own personal experiences. For me, juniper is uplifting. It is like take me out of depression zone, and that is because of where I live. I live in the Northeast. It is cold here. I miss the growing season, and they just make me happy. They have really strong essential oils, so you want to be careful when you're using them in an oil, because they are very, very, very full of fragrance, really strong. But then of course we're going to be mixing it with beeswax, and that's going to make it a little weaker. So spruce is definitely top of my list for essential oil release, like high essential oils, and also juniper. And I would say that the white pine adds something. It definitely has a lot of vitamin C in there that's really healthy for your skin, but it's not actually as essential oily. It's not actually as fragrant. So if you're making a woodland oil and you're not using essential oils and you're only depending on the oil, the plants that you're putting into that oil, just know that white pine alone is not going to give you that woodland scent that you're after. It's really sister juniper.
We are literally trying to capture the essence of the forest. Once the salve is complete, it will allow us to carry the forest energy with us, anoint our tools and ourselves for forest gleaning. You can use this oil on its own as well for anointing or in spells, and just skip making it into a salve. Just use the oil. I use both in my craft. I prefer the salve for meditation, getting myself ready to go on a forest gleaning adventure, or getting my headspace ready for any kind of witchcraft in my home. The oil is great for spells, and I will put some correspondences below for you as well. Okay, so now that we have the essence of the forest upon us in salve form and a mobile apothecary too, we can take a drive to the forest. You can wear whatever you like, but I like to wear my antlers in the forest and some Renaissance gear too. I made these vegan antlers, and I will link above a video if you feel like going back to the winter. For Yule, I made these antlers, and I'm just like in love with these antlers. If you want to learn to make them or just kind of see a little visual of how I made them, you can check that out. I will link that above. Just be safe in the forest. Wear gear that works for you in your area that you're visiting. I love to wear Renaissance gear, but there are all kinds of critters, and of course the sun to be safe from. I tend to wear rain gear or tights under my skirt, and my forest boots are essential for walking through brambles and thorns. So let's head for a quick walk to the top of this hill to work on a forest witch renewal spell.
We made it through the epic brambles. I can't even tell you how many. This is the wrong outfit for this adventure. We're gonna make it.
I want to give you the whole spell as I create it, but I can't because I am mixing energies in real time and I don't really follow a script. In this spell, I pre-wrote the incantations. I am using the sun as it is one of the first hot days in the spring. I am using cinnamon incense for protection. The intention of this spell is to help me renew myself, my relationship with my partner, and to give me insights into how I can connect to both myself and my partner. Those insights are what I am manifesting, and the ingredients that I have found and brought with me are what I'm using to conjure some renewal energy. And these visions or ideas that come over the next few weeks are really the things that I'm going to follow to unite and renew. And they all come from this spell. If you would like me to share more spells and write some down as I am working and share that here during the next year, let me know in the comments. Also, do subscribe here for more from me. Let me know anything that you get from this video. Is this exciting for you? I think it's really fascinating to hear how people receive this, because this is literally the kind of magic that 20 years ago I was like shamed in the witch community for. And so it's a really big deal for me to be able to share this, and I'm just so grateful for you taking a peek at my work, and I hope to hear from you soon. When the sun begins to set, I find myself back home. I take the part of my craft that has me focusing. As I craft these shadow boxes, I wanted to chat about intuition, spontaneity, and whimsy, as I feel these are part forest witchcraft, and what a perfect box we have to prepare as we are making these for the Fae. I live into the fantasy of the Fae, but in which reality, the Fae, to me, is a spirit I interact with in the forest or my garden. I call them land spirits, and I don't see the Fae as little people, but I certainly live into the art of pretend. The imagination can awaken a vulnerability akin to awakening the inner child, and this awakening unlocks the intuition. So crafts like this, where you take these gleaned items and create art like this, can really connect a wild witch to the forest. A cauldron spell is a way to create a spell with fire, combining many ingredients to build a new energy unique to those correspondences you attribute. And this kind of art can kind of do the same, but it's not the same as using fire, and it's a living craft that can bring an element of spell work into your home, but it's kind of like a long-term spell, if that makes sense. It's not instant, it's not fast, and it's not bold. It is the collecting of magical items that combines energies just like a cauldron spell. This piece can hold memories. This piece can hold a doorway to keep the imagination open, thus keeping the inner child happy, thus connecting one to that vulnerability and increasing the ability to hear one's intuition. I think whimsy is a part of forest witchcraft for the reasons I just mentioned, but this whimsy, awakening the inner child, enlivening the intuition, all contributes to being able to break from the adult mind and live into spontaneity. This spontaneity, this to me is where I believe forest witchcraft can become this relationship to the forest. An adventure into the forest can become a spontaneous journey where the intuition can lead the way for ingredients for your work and experiences that add to your magical life. Just a reminder to stay on the path, or if you don't, just don't get physically lost. These boxes are shadow boxes, and for one I used the frame, the other I omitted the frame and the glass. I used mainly hot glue, but I reinforced with epoxy glue. I will link the glue below that I use the most. Hot glue is great, it's just not as strong. For small items, hot glue is fine, but the wood pieces holding that weight needed epoxy glue. And so, my wild ones, I leave you with one last idea to bring the forest into your everyday and dabble in forest magic, and that is to keep the forest flowers with you during winter by taking the time to pick flowers now and preserve them in ice. It is such a lovely way to do some forest intention spells with wild flowers that are edible. Right now, where I am in the forest, honeysuckle season is beginning, lilac season is fading, and second dandelion season is on its way. There are plants in the forest I will use in baking, and ice cubes like with spruce tips. This keeps the spring forest energy with me all year long. And so cheers to your forest witchery if you choose to dabble. Stay wild and come and find me again.